Laddie, what's your background here? You've born and raised in Venice.
Born and raised right here in Venice.
So you may know some of the people who were affected by the special action performed by Traci Park.
I knew many of those people that were affected by the mayor's plan for safe living, or however it's phrased.
Can you say something about what happened the other night?
Cecil Bowens was born and raised here in Venice. He has some mental challenges that we have been dealing with over on 3rd Street. Gary Featherstone, Michael Ridley, and myself, getting him to remain calm, take his medicine. He was fed 3 square meals a day. He didn't know anything else but Venice, and the way he was treated to get him to go to Harvard General UCLA was very violent. They came in, it was like 8-10 cars of police. They all surrounded him. He then became very agitated. He then became very hostile. They wrestled him to the ground. They zip-tied him, hands and feet, lifted him up to the ambulance so he could go. He was screaming, he didn't want to go. This was his home. We were trying to talk to them and let them know we could talk him down and get him to walk to the ambulance. We were not given that chance. Michael Ridley had promised to run home and get him 2 hot dogs. This is what he wanted, 2 hot dogs. And he wanted an iPad, and he wanted to take his cell phone. None of this was allowed. He was just wrestled to the ground very abruptly, hog-tied, and put in the ambulance that was waiting down on Rose and 3rd. He called all our names. It was very heart-wrenching because we have known him all his life, and we were helping him. And yes, he had been a hindrance to the community. Don't misunderstand me, because he has mental challenges. But Cecil was very, very, very loving towards people he had known all his life. He did not trust people that he didn't know because of whatever's happened to him out on the street. But he knew there was love and compassion, and there was us there taking care of him on 3rd, and we had been doing that for quite some time.
Did the police perform this action under circumstances, heavy circumstances, like it was raining and it was dark and there were alarms going off?
Alarms were going off at Public Storage. They had been going off for a day and a half. Just this wah, 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 constant noise for over a day and a half. And it was pouring down rain. Everybody was soaking wet. Everybody was trying to pack all their things and get it together to get out of the way, because then came a trash truck with a big crane on it that was taking their things, and it was making a roaring noise. Constant. And then the trash trucks make noise. So it was just noise, 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 and pouring down rain. It just seemed like it was an attack on the entire street. And the noise was a way of making them hurry up and move, or be so discombobulated they didn't know what to do that you would just take their things and move on to the next tent. But we were there helping elderly people. Carol put her things, has been here 20 years. Carol is in her 80s, almost in her 80s, and she could not get her stuff. She was shaking, she was cold, it was wet, and she just couldn't get her mind together to get her things. So we took the things and started stuffing them in our cars, just so she wouldn't lose everything, because she said, I don't know where my purse is, I don't know where anything is, and she couldn't take it anymore. She just turned her chair around, the chair that you can walk or sit, and she just sat there in the pouring rain, and the rain was just coming down on her, and it was no care about how old she was, that she was discombobulated. It was no thought process about how we can help her, except for us who had been running the street for over 2 years, how to help her, because we knew her.
Were there other individuals that were affected by this?
There was another individual named Georgina who wasn't allowed to robe herself. She's been here for over 20 years. She just came out of her tent. I can't take it. I can't take it. And she just started hurling her clothes into the street, all her belongings into the street. They didn't allow her to get her clothes on. She had her bra on and some pants, but they did not allow her to get her clothes, get dressed. She was soaked at that point because of the downpour of rain, and it was just like something out of a horror movie. How these people were dehumanized to the point that nobody cared if they were dressed. Nobody cared that they couldn't get their things. Nobody cared that they had a community there, and they were all crying for their community. There was a guy named Michael who was there who had some dogs, and he just took his dogs and started walking down the street. And when they were calling for him, he said, just take the shit. You don't want us here? Just take the shit. And he just left his things and took his dogs in his wagon and just walked up to Rose and 3rd, and he turned right. You don't know where he went. But I have been told that they came back and offered him a room, a hotel. I don't know where, but they offered him a hotel.
This was all done surrounded by armed police officers the whole time.
All LAPD was there, LA Sanitation, and lots of were there. It was taped off, and that's what threw people too. If it was supposed to be voluntary, why was it all taped off?
And this location, 3rd, was very, very organized, very tidy. One of the tidiest spots in the whole city.
We always got compliments, of course not from the NIMBYs who didn't want them there at all, but we got various compliments from parents who would come see their children and saw that they were getting food, they were being clothed, they were being fed. We got lots of donations from individual people who would drop off food, clothing. We had one woman bring in almost 100 pallets so they could stack their tents on top of the pallets. So if it rained, they didn't get wet and the water ran off into the street. But we were complimented because it was such a clean environment. The trash was always picked up. The trash was always kept tidy. We always made sure that the trash was kept clean. We were always putting the trash onto the dumpsters. We were constantly clean, and all the people had interest in keeping the street clean. They swept. They always swept, and it was a ritual. The first tent, you take the east side of the street. On the other side, you take the west side of the street. And they had to sweep and clean, and they picked up. And when they ate, they never put their trash on the ground. It was always put in a trash bag that was always put in the trash bins. They had showers every Tuesday and Thursday. They had showers. They had a 24-hour bathroom over there, so there was none of the quote-unquote pooping in my yard because the bathrooms were always there. Pit Stop kept one set cleaned on one side of the street, and we kept the other one cleaned and sanitized on the other side of the street.
Wasn't a lot of this was due to the organizing efforts of Mr. Featherstone and yourself and others?
Gary Featherstone, I have to give it to him. He fussed and he was sometimes cranky as all outdoors, but he loved everyone over there. Michael Ridley, same thing. We have been accused of drug trafficking, open air drug market. I was accused of prostituting the girls. None of that was true. It was all of us worked over there because there were people there. We lost our oldest member of 3rd Street. He died on the street. Bird, we called him Bird. He died on the street in the parking lot. And we don't know, they wouldn't tell us what caused his death, but he was another one who was a hard worker and always cleaned the street. I mean, there was always somebody sweeping the street and making sure the trash was picked up. We had a recycling day. Always we were recycling, so the people were able to keep money in their pocket just by going and turn. Gary was so kind, he would take them up there to the recycling center. He took them to the doctor. Michael took them to the doctor. They took them to the market. We had an organized encampment.
And Mr. Featherstone's also a natural-born Venetian, and a good number of the people there were from here. They're from Venice.
Michael is born and raised, and so was Gary Featherstone, born and raised. We were all born and raised here, and the two of them came up with the idea for homeless enterprise, and it was working, and they knew that. I mean, the tents were well organized. There was never a lot of junk and trash out on the street because we didn't allow it. You had to keep it clean if you were going to live over there. And we were working on Hampton. Hampton was not as organized as 3rd Street, but 3rd Street was the prototype that we were working to take to Hampton, but the NIMBYs wanted us out of here. I understand we were the trial 2 days before, and Gary and Spike talked to her, but Traci Park was there pointing and looking like, you know, we had created another catastrophe when it wasn't. It was very well run. Even the people at the pit stop who kept the bathrooms clean told them that this was the most organized establishment they had ever seen as far as being homeless.
It seems like this would be the least likely candidate spot for this kind of special action, special treatment. What would you speculate would be the reasons why they had to pick 3rd?
Well, we had the NIMBYs coming every day, filming, walking up and down the street, walking down the middle of the street, every single day. It was one of them, some of them, just coming to harass people, say nasty things. We want our streets back. So when we heard Karen Bass say that at the Rose Cafe over there on Rose the day she came, we knew what was there. We knew the hate was there.
Traci Park's congratulating herself for having stepped in and done this. What do you expect the outcome to be, the short-term and long-term outcomes of this?
Well, the people are coming back. Many of them are, 2 or 3 of them have already left the hotels, and they're back. So now they're just in the community. I don't think you can keep people inside like that when they have mental issues, they have drug issues. I don't think you can just stick them in a room and say, we housed 108 people, because many of them have mental issues that need to be dealt with, and many of them have drug issues that need to be dealt with on a daily basis. So sticking them in a room, giving yourself a clap because you took them off the street, it's a Band-Aid.
You think they're going to have to talk about this later on when it comes back to haunt them?
I'm sure they're talking about it now, because I'm sure that they've heard that some people had food, some people didn't. Some people needed medical supplies, some people didn't. And I'm sure they're scurrying around trying to figure it out. When they kept it well together on 3rd Street, they had the Rose Clinic coming every Thursday to check on them, refill prescriptions, and make sure they were, somewhat healthy.
And I think you and others are doing some of the care after the fact for some of these people. You're actually doing some help to
we're
keep
dropping.
them
We're
fed
still the lady is still dropping food off. So they take it over to there's 2 hotels on Lincoln that we're taking it to, where I think it is almost 60 people there. And they're not happy. They're all complaining about the fact that they can't visit with one another. I guess they signed rules to get in there, so they're not able to socialize with each other. So they're cordoned off from each other, but they're in the hotels on Lincoln, the Marina 7.
Anything you'd like to communicate to Traci Park if she were here right now?
Well, I'd like to tell her, instead of coming over pointing her finger at us on the day that Karen Bass and she came over, it would have been nice if they would have come up and talked to us and seen what we were doing and how we were successful and added on to that. It wasn't about coming in and like pariah and taking them from where their community was. Community is important for healing. And Venice has always been a community where we helped one another, we loved one another, we were there for one another, and we always wanted to see people do better. These new people who have come in, they don't know that. They don't know the Venice that I grew up in, where our grandmothers fed the unhoused to keep the street clean. They let them take showers in their backyard until the proactive code enforcement came through and made us all take our showers out the backyard. We were a community. We fed each other. We loved each other. And what they did to us, it's very, very painstaking. So I wish they would have come, talked to us, seen what we were doing, and seen that it was working, instead of listening to the fear-mongering that goes on in this community 24/7. Next door should be taken out of existence, because the fear-mongering on there is what's got everybody upset, what's got everybody thinking that the homeless are going to kill them, making them think that the homeless are going to poop in their front yard. The lies just generate off of that fear-mongering place until it's like unbelievable.
Any suggestions or plans about what to do from here on?
Well, we'd like to get our church here saved. It has 12 rooms in it. We could educate and be there for people who needed it within the community, who want to be here, who want to make the changes. We could offer drug classes. We could offer safe streets. We could offer so many programs here that it would truly, truly benefit those who want to do different and want to be different. Because a lot of them do want to be different, but they've been molested as children. They've been beat up in families. They've been thrown out in the street at 12 and 13 years old, so they don't know. And what this church could do for them is give them the love and the confidence they needed in order to enter into society instead of being kicked out. Because right now, living in a motel, you don't know how long, you don't know if it's permanent and supportive, you don't know what it is. You're just in this hotel room and you have no idea what's going to happen to you. You don't know if you're going to get permanent supportive housing. You don't know if you're going to get counseling. You don't know if you're going to be loved. You don't know if somebody's going to be there for you 24/7. You don't know. They don't know.
Venice traditions that we've always abided by, as long as I've been alive.
Venice has always been a place of love. And now with these new NIMBYs and our new CD11 person, we have to keep fighting. We're not going to give up. If you go along Rose Avenue in Venice, there's this gaudy, awful fence. It looks like the penitentiary. It is horrible. You go back behind Amazon, there's a fence. You go on Flower, there's a fence. We have never, ever, ever had that in Venice. Never. Not even through the darkest times when, quote unquote, the drugs were poured into this community. We didn't have fences. We didn't have gates. We still came out. We still fed people. We still came out. We still loved people. We still came out. We were there. Venice has always been well organized and been there. It's a different kind of city. We don't want to be known as the city of fences, You don't want the house. You don't want them on the beach. You want a 4118 the beach, which means they can't sit, sleep, or enjoy the beach. So I understand. I saw the map that they're going to 4118 Hampton. They're going to 4118 3rd Street. So there will be no unhoused, no people that can sit, rest, or sleep in those areas.
Unless they look like tourists. Is there anything you could say to the newcomers to Venice and the NIMBYs to get through to them, to explain to them what they're doing?
You said you wanted to come here for the bohemian love, for the bohemian event. Let's try to look up what that means and not bring your thoughts and your values and how you grew up here to a city that has been bohemian. Come out, get to know people, talk to people. Don't put up your 20-foot fences in their front yard. And just by the way, they didn't allow us to put fences that high up. We had to keep the fence so, quote unquote, the police could look from the street to the alley. Now they can't do that. You ride around Venice and the fences are so high. They come in through the alley. They exit through the alley. They don't want to know anybody. They don't want to talk to anybody. That's not what Venice was about or is about. There's still many of us here who have the bohemian upbringing where you love one another, you treat one another equally, no matter what they do.
Laddie, what did they call you out here?
No, we can't put that one out there.
Come on.
Oh, no.
Come on, Laddie.
They do call me the warden. They call me the warden. I mean, they know. I'm not for the bull crap. I'm not for the bull pucky. I don't like you to steal. I don't like you to rob. I don't like you to thief. So, yes, I am known as the warden.
And what does Naomi call you?
Fannie Lou Hamer.
There you go.
Fannie Lou Hamer.
Hallelujah.
But, yeah. Fannie Lou Hamer. Or I was Malcolm X, too. So, it's just because I love you, but you gotta be right.
And Naomi said she was Martin Luther King.
Yeah, she's Martin Luther King. I'm not. I'm not. The police, I waved at them. What did they tell you when they came?
I just said to them, I hope you've just issued tickets at the park for dogs off leash. And he just looked at me and said, we didn't.
No, they're not. But you let anybody of color be up in there with a cup, a glass, or anything, and they're in there, Johnny on the spot. These people have free reign up here.
I've seen those emails every time Acosta is asked, have you written any tickets in the last 6 months? He says, no, I've been too busy harassing people. Writing tickets to people, the poor people. I can't give tickets to
They had animal services over there. But they say they're short-staffed. It was 8-10 cars of cops. They were over there. They never stop here.
People have pets just to keep them alive.
Well, no, they were going to take them.
You're talking about on 3rd.
No, I mean on
during
3rd.
the sweep on
The
3rd.
people on 3rd have their
there.
pets. These are almost their, these are their families.
This is their family.
Yeah. And animal control was apprehending those dogs?
No, I don't know why they had them there. They didn't apprehend any dogs. I don't know why they have them, but they tell us they can't come up here. Animal control. They're short-staffed.
Because they're too busy over on 3rd.
No, or on the beach.
Yeah.
So, Laddie, when people were given this offer in the middle of the night, and it's pouring rain and the sirens are going, did they have to sign something
Yes,
saying...
they had to sign a pledge that they were giving the city their things,
their belongings,
and that they weren't. It wasn't done under duress.
Yeah, right.
And that it wasn't. It was voluntary, which is not true. Everything that happened over there was they were made to do. And what choice did they have when the streets were blocked off? The police were everywhere. Sanitation was out there. The siren was going at public storage. I called, Gary called, Spike called, Peggy Kennedy called to turn that thing off. It was unbelievable. The noise was deafening. So, of course, you were going to do what they told you to do because it was done under duress.
Signing those pledges is that's a psychological tactic, psychological warfare tactic to make the person feel that they're consenting or playing a part in their own oppression.
I agree.
So what were they allowed to take?
2 bags.
And they had to give up the physical
They
tent.
had to give up the physical tent, and they had to have had a picture. Sanitation had a picture of the said tent, and if the face didn't fit the tent, you just had to go.
Oh, because they had taken photos previously?
Yeah. And then you couldn't get on the bus. This long Trailways bus was there, waiting for them to sign the pledge. They only could bring 2 bags to get on the bus. And then they had to watch all the things that they cared about because they couldn't get them in 2 grocery bags. They just had to watch the claw come and boop, drop it into the truck. Boop. Many of them were crying. It was very, very, very hard to see people crying because you could only take 2 bags, but the rest of your stuff was just boop, thrown away. This loud noise with this crane just picking it up, dropping it into the dumpster.
Did we say was anybody video recording a lot of this?
You couldn't. It was pouring rain. How were you going to video? And we wanted to videotape, but you had to help the people. I mean, you couldn't stop and not assist the people with what was going on. You didn't have a heart if you couldn't, because a lot of them didn't know what to do, and the rain didn't help. And why did they have to do it on a day that was pouring rain?
So how much notice did they get this was going to happen?
That they had the things on the fence, the notices on the fence. But what I've learned with these signs, because we helped them, we would always rent U-Haul trucks when the signs came for the comprehensive cleaning. We couldn't do that this time.
Shorter notice, though?
There was a notice there, and they said they didn't have to really notice because it was an SECZ zone, Section Z zone, so they didn't have to. But there were signs. It was just, when you're down and out and homeless, on drugs, or you got a mental problem, what good is a sign? It was there, but what good is it?
So what time of night did they start?
No, the sirens were a whole day and a half. They started at 6 in the morning.
And so in the pouring rain, people had to decide what went in the 2 bags?
People were soaking wet with 2 bags.
But deciding what?
Yeah, what was what. So we tried with Cecil Bowens to tell them we could get him to come down. They wanted no parts of what we were talking about.
And what about Cecil now?
Cecil's in Harbor General, UCLA. They wanted us to come pick him up, but we can't take that kind of responsibility for him because we don't have anywhere for him to go. So I asked Karen Bass to make sure in an email that Cecil Bowens be given housing and permanent supportive housing, which means that everything he needs should be on the ground or close to it. Haven't heard. I don't know if I did him a disservice by writing that letter, but we haven't heard from him since. I wrote the letter on Saturday.
So why would it be a disservice?
Because he hasn't been able to call us.
No, why would it be a disservice to write the letter?
Because we haven't heard from him. We haven't heard from him at all now. We were hearing from him every day, but now we haven't heard from him at all.
So if they took him on a 5150, they can't keep him there more than 72 hours, right?
That's the mayor you're talking about. She could demand that they stay.
Really?
Especially if it's to make them look good. You don't want to see that you arrested him and brutally took him out of here to, in 72 hours, see him again walking around the neighborhood, because he's going to come back.
So,
That story's going to be in the beach when it happens. I want to make it be known that this was just a photo op for these.
That's all it was. And the fact that none of us were invited to the Rose, just the homeowners.
Oh, to be in their big glad-handing, backslapping experience.
Yeah, none of us were invited. Luckily, somebody sent us that text that I sent out, but they didn't send it until 7 o'clock that morning, because we didn't know anything about it. And now there's another one that I sent you guys on Fort Culver Boulevard. You saw that one, yeah. Can be on that one. I'm not going to say anything. They probably wouldn't let us anyway, but
good to hear what they're saying.
yeah, good to hear what they're saying. Thank you. But Cecil is one. I've known him since he was born. His mom was Yvonne Haynes. He was born here, and she died at an early age for them, and he wasn't given the grief counseling, the help that he needed, and spent all of his teen life and all of his adult life like this. So I'm praying he can get the help he needs. Georgiana, I hope she can get the help she needs, because she has mental issues too. So that wasn't thought about. That's all I can say.
What's your vision for how we uplift Black history in this community and maintain it in the face of all of this?
In the face of all this, I think it's very important we uplift Black history, because people need to see that this community, as well as with the Japanese, the Latino, the white, we kept this community together. So history has to be taught that it can be done. This church is a very good presentation of what can be done when everyone comes together to fight for what is right. We have to tell our history. You have to know your history to understand your future. So, I'm just hoping that we keep putting it out there. We keep saying that the history of Venice is very important for the survival of Venice. This cannot be Silicon Beach. This cannot be whatever else they're trying to call it. This is Venice Beach, open, loving to everyone.
I think that's a message that should be exported to other communities instead of changed by the incomers.
Oh, yeah. And I think what needs to also be said is, even if you have money, there was money here in Venice. Doctors lived here, lawyers lived here, because back then you couldn't live anywhere else. So we do know about people who have money, but don't come with your bourgeoisie attitude that I'm too good to be around this. You said you wanted to be bohemian, let's be bohemian then. Don't come in and lie and throw up your fences because you want to be here, because you think your money's going to make a difference. It's killed us. Their money has killed us. And I'm going to do a film about the Rose, the new Venice Penitentiary with all the fences, because that's what it looks like. We never had these fences. Never. So people can't sit, walk, or stand. It's crazy to me. With the fences. All along roads. Flower. And now in back of Whole Foods.
And the meetings keep on.
Oh, and the library looks like what? The Venice Penitentiary. That's where the warden should stay, over there at the library with all that fencing around the library. I won't even take my children back over there. It's too ugly. We now go to Santa Monica. That's hideous over there, all around the Venice Library. I don't take my grandkids.
But that's all they do. Dudley Pagoda?
Yeah.
They
it's
can't
still
handle
fenced.
it. They prefer no use over what they consider the wrong
Right.
use.
Right. And how long has the pagoda's been there? Oh, I can't walk by. My baby. I'm so afraid. What are you afraid of? They were not bothering you. What are you afraid of? But go on these new quote unquote next doors, and everybody's scared. Scared of what?
They could go to Redondo Beach. They could be perfectly happy down to Redondo Beach. They wouldn't need to do that.
Yeah, but you come in, you change what's been known to work here, and it's very hurtful. Our Oakwood Park, all day long, dog park. Only park we have in this 1.1 mile radius, and it's being taken over by dogs, and nobody wants to do anything. They have a dog park. They took our Green Hill. They made that a dog park. You got Ala Park over there. That's a dog park. Oh no, I want this park. So they're allowed to come here. We never had dogs in Oakwood. Never.